Well, intermittent fasting is a trend that has taken the world by storm. A new study is shedding some light on the diet, and Danny spoke with Dr. Kohli about it. Check it out.
All right, well, Dr. Kohli, it's great to have you here today.
Thank you, Danny.
Yes,
nice to see you.
Yes, you too. Okay, so I want to talk to you about something that a lot of people have been doing lately. There's all these fads and different ways that people are trying to lose weight and stay healthy, and one of those is intermittent fasting. Can you explain how this is done?
This is so popular, Danny. I have
Yes.
patients asking me about it all the time, and really what we call it in the medical community is time-restricted eating.
Okay.
So there's three ways to sort of lose weight. You reduce what you eat, you reduce how much you eat, or you reduce when you eat.
Okay.
So this is really that time-restricted eating where you can eat whatever you want, but
Yeah.
you can only eat in a certain window of time.
Yeah.
And so we call it intermittent fasting because the rest of the time you're sort of cutting down the calories or fasting, but there's a few different ways to do this.
Okay.
The most popular way to do it is sort of the 16-8.
Okay.
So you eat for 8 hours during the day, most commonly between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., for example, and the rest of the time you're not really eating anything.
Sure.
But there's also a method called 5-2, which means 5 days of the week you eat much fewer calories, 500 to 600 calories, and then on Saturday and Sunday, for example, you can eat whatever you want.
Indulge a little. Okay, okay. And I like this, especially when it comes to the actual timing itself, because like you said, that allows people to kind of eat whatever you want, if you will, but within this restriction. Now, there is this new study on intermittent fasting that just came out. Tell us what the results are and why these were so surprising for you.
Yeah, it created so much debate in the cardiology community because intermittent fasting is something we have sort of been recommending to our patients as a healthy way to start to think about weight loss and glucose control, blood pressure control. What this study showed, and it was an observational study, so it didn't say you intermittent fast and you don't. It just looked at what people were doing, asked them to recall what they had eaten for 2 days, and then many years later looked at whether or not they had a higher risk of dying. And what they found is that people who ate for fewer hours, less than 8 hours, essentially many years later, that translated into a higher risk of cardiovascular death.
Interesting.
Now, here's the kicker.
Okay.
So they didn't ask basically what the people ate or how much they ate, right? They didn't ask why they were only eating for 8 hours. Is it because they were working too much? Is it because, you know, they're working the night shift, they didn't have access to food, all of those types of things. It didn't ask what other behaviors they were doing, like smoking or drinking alcohol or anything else. And it was all based on recall. So if I asked you what you had to eat last week on Tuesday and how many hours you ate, you probably wouldn't be able to tell me.
Nope.
Right. So I think the study itself was a little flawed, but it does raise the question of the long-term safety of intermittent fasting as more people are doing it as a lifestyle, not just as something that they're doing for short periods.
Okay. I see how there can be a little bit of a discrepancy there. And of course, a lot of people see these studies and say, okay, that's it, I'm not doing it. Right. And obviously there are a lot more factors here. Now, this has been sort of a miracle diet for a lot of people. I know that I did it before pregnancy and it was something that I really enjoyed doing. It's not hard to do, which is nice. But is this still the case, and are there health benefits to this?
Definitely. And that's what I want people to take away from here, that limiting kind of when you eat can have immediate and potentially long-term health benefits as well. So we've seen reductions in weight. Now, this isn't going to drop off dozens of pounds, but it can get your weight down 2 to 3%, which is a healthy way to lose weight, because if you're eating for less time during the day, guess what? You're eating less. So it's a way to sort of build in that portion control. It's helpful for blood pressure. And what's interesting is that the hours that you intermittent fast can affect how much it helps your blood pressure. So our body naturally follows a circadian rhythm when we excrete sodium from our body. And so intermittent fasting kind of during the morning and early afternoon hours can be more beneficial for those, because that's when our body would naturally excrete the sodium anyways. We've seen improvements in blood glucose as well, especially for people that are pre-diabetic or diabetic, because you're eating less. Except in those populations, you want to be careful, because fasting for long periods of time can also increase your risk of hypoglycemia. So I'm still recommending it to my patients. It's good for heart health. It's good for overall cardiometabolic health. But I think it's a more nuanced conversation than before, where everybody should sort of go out and do it.
Totally. Okay, sounds good. So there are people who might not want to be doing diets like this. How do we know if intermittent fasting is okay for us?
You know, if you're overweight, if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, if you have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, these are all patients that are likely to benefit, especially those that have elevated blood pressure as well. You don't want to do it if you're on a lot of medications without checking with with your doctor. And I would always say, anytime you start a new diet, especially something like this where you're dramatically changing when you eat and when you don't, you want to make sure it's okay by your doctor. With your medications might need to be adjusted, you know, and they might tell you what times to do it or which way, whether the 16-8 way is better or the 5-2 way is better, because that could be different for different people. If you're older, you know that intermittent fasting can also result in weight loss, which can result in bone density going down, which can result in muscle mass going down as well. And so you want to make sure you talk through all of those issues with your doctor. But certainly there are groups that would benefit, and it's an effective way to let you eat what you want, but really sort of limit the time so you limit the portions.
Okay, and you know I have to ask you this last one because, like I said, I did this a bit before I got pregnant, and now that I'm pregnant, I have not been doing it. I've been, you know, craving more foods and wanting to make sure I'm getting my protein. But is this something that is safe to do while pregnant?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
So you're eating for two, Danny.
Yes.
And I want you to keep that in mind. And having these kind of rapid glucose shifts, rapid changes in your, you know, glucose levels, in your blood pressure, in your food intake, that is not safe during pregnancy.
Okay.
And it's certainly not something we would recommend. So if you are doing this and you happen to get pregnant, you certainly want to stop doing that particular diet.
Yeah.
And even though it's a good way to think about starting to eat healthier, you want to make sure you don't do any harm first.
Definitely.
So once you have that baby, we can talk about whether you want to get back on it, but not for now.
Okay, yeah, eating for two, it makes sense. Dr. Kohli, thank you so much. It's great to see you.
Great to see you, Danny.
Well, make sure to email us your questions for Dr. Kohli. Just send your message to MyCOCO at 9news.com and put Kohli in the subject line.